All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another live edition of Box Lunch here at the Fort Worth Community Arts Center. So very happy to be here today. It is a blazing hot Texas Monday, and we have a blazing hot return guest coming back to visit with us here at Box Lunch, the one and only Dr. Lauren Cross. How are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. It's wonderful to be back. It's wonderful.
Well, we are so very excited to have you. I feel like all this is really old hat, considering that we have visited once on this. So,
Yes.
Dr. Cross, for those that aren't watching or haven't seen us here before, do you mind just taking a moment, introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about who you are and what it is you do?
Well, I am an artist, a curator, and a scholar who lives in Fort Worth. So I am a citizen of our city. I founded a nonprofit back in 2013, WoCA Projects, which is very much virtual as well. And then I am an assistant professor of interdisciplinary art and design studies at the University of North Texas, where I oversee that IADS program there. So yeah, that is what I do, which I feel like is a conglomerate of different things. So depending on which day you ask me, I might be working on some personal art or curating something or writing something. So never a dull moment.
A jack of all trades for sure. So, Dr. Cross, now it's been about a year, give or take, since last we visited. How are you doing? And what sort of things have changed for you? And what sort of things have stayed the same since last we visited?
Well, I'm doing great. You know, it's been a long year. In a lot of good ways, right? So as a result of the pandemic, you know, there was a lot of virtual programming that I had the opportunity to be a part of. So I'm really grateful for that because, you know, during such a unprecedented time, to have the opportunity to keep thinking and keep imagining ways that I could make a difference, you know, was helpful, you know, to kind of get through the year, through 2020, but also even like 2021, which has found us very much like in some of the similar places that we were a year ago. You know, I'm primarily still working a lot of things virtually, but starting to get more like face to face, working on some projects that are face to face. So there's a lot of like, you know, coming out into the world happening, going to see spaces, seeing artists again. So that's been fun, actually. It's been refreshing to kind of get a chance to actually see people face to face and engage with the community in new ways, in this new feeling of kind of just like everybody's just kind of coming out of hiding in a way. So I just feel like everybody's excited about that. So you kind of feel the energy of that, you know, people are happy to see you, you're happy to see other people. So it just makes it special, I guess is kind of the word that comes to mind. It feels very special, like what's happening, at least for right now. Now there's a lot of, you know, elbow touching. There's that too. Like people are not like necessarily being like willy-nilly about it too. So it's different, obviously, but it's a good place.
Yes, everything seems new again, for lack of a better term, and
Yes.
It's been quite exciting to see people's appreciation of getting back out and around, and I can't help but giggle a little bit at some of the hesitancy as well, figuring out if it's okay to handshake, hug, elbow pump, whatever it is they want to do. And I feel like the people that I have had the opportunity to reintroduce myself to, it's like creating the friendship all over again, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. You don't realize how like being, in isolation like that, how it kind of disorients you. It makes you more aware, of your personal space and all of that. So it's been interesting, and I'm definitely a hugger, like by nature, and it's been awkward for me, So it's like, do I hug? Do I? I'm kind of like one of those, like, I'll hug everybody, and so it's been like, but should I do that though? Like I've never like ever questioned that before. So
Yes,
yeah, it's an interesting place.
I couldn't agree more. And it's just been so interesting that people still aren't all understanding of the fact that it took us a year to learn how to protect ourselves. And then in the course of a week, everyone's just expecting to just fall back into those old practices. And for me personally, I think it's going to take maybe another week or two before I just forget all of those things that I learned for a year. So
right. And it's really been interesting for me to process, like when people are like, oh, I ain't going out without no mat. It's just like, and before, last year, as we were embarking on this conversation about masking up, like there was a lot of hesitation then. So it's, we're all adjusting, so.
Absolutely. And it seems to be going in a positive direction. So we're going to keep hoping that trend continues. And, we talk about the many things that we've learned. And I think one of them that I had hoped to do a better job of was my cooking, hence box lunch. I think it's still debatable how I'm doing on all that. So before we get into all of the new business, what is on your lunch menu today?
Speaking of debating on how your cooking is going, of course, when we're in the height of the pandemic, you're just cooking everything. Today we just have taquitos, so we're keeping it very simple. My virtual background is not letting me cooperate there, but we're just keeping it real simple right now.
Nice. Well, your virtual background is doing that so that we can save the reveal for the end of the program as we bid each other adieu. Now, I wish I could take credit for these wonderful menus that I have, but I am also going back to the reheating menu today, and I will be heating up some lasagna in the air fryer. So as we visit, I've already got it wrapped in some aluminum foil. I'm just going to make sure I don't have it set to broil, and I'll turn the timer to about 10 minutes there, and we'll see if I can even wrap leftover lasagna very well. So now, Dr. Cross, you have a huge event coming up. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Well, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about that. I don't want to steal the thunder from all of this hard work that you've done. I'll generalize a wonderful event coming to the Pioneer Tower in August. You have done a fantastic job of gathering some artists, and you are kicking off the next few weeks of our box lunch programs talking about this wonderful event. So without further ado, let us in on all of the great information.
Yes. So I'm really honored about this project. So for those who aren't aware about the Pioneer Tower project, it's a fantastic permanent new media art project that's going to be really at the center of our city. And so it's a world-class public art piece that we're going to have that's going to feature two dynamic artists. And so when I was approached about curating this exhibition, it just excited me. And so in conversations about the project, we were able to kind of think about the title, which the title of the exhibition is New Stories, New Futures, which I'm really excited about that because and thinking about the Pioneer Tower, like that's really like what the project is all about. It's looking at the landscape of our city and really trying to be representative of our different community citizens and their voices, their representations, both in people, landscape, you know, just a conglomerate of different representations of our city. So as I was thinking about curating this, I also was thinking about, well, how can I, speak to that on a local level, in a way that is thinking about artists locally. And when I say local, I mean like regionally local. So like all of North Texas, who also could do something similar in their own right. And this project is obviously spearheaded by Fort Worth Public Art and Fort Worth Arts Council and Aurora. So this has been a really great opportunity to work with both of those or all of those organizations rather, and kind of talk about this in conversation. And so the artist that I chose, I was thinking about, I really wanted to be intentional, about the kinds of different types of conversation, both in the actual artists, like who they are, what their work represents, as well as the types of works that they do. So there's a lot of variety and diversity in the artist lineup, but also like in the things that they focus on. And that was really important to me because I think that it's so important to have artists, who aren't, coming from the same perspective to be in conversation with one another. And so that was really the goal for me, was to think about how could I curate a conversation with artists that I felt like, I would love to sit in a room with these artists and hear what they have to say about this.
Well, I feel very fortunate. I have several of them scheduled on the books and cannot wait to visit with all of them. Are you comfortable giving us just a rough kind of overview of some of the artists that we can be looking forward to, not only here on Box Lunch over the next couple of weeks, but also at this fantastic show that you've curated as well, which again opens up in August?
Yes. So the artists that I've selected for the show are Jessica Fuentes, Raul Rodriguez, Jeff Gibbons, Letitia and Cedric Huckabee, Angela Foss. I'm going to look at my little list here. Jinya Huan and Nick Bontrager. And this is I'm sorry. And then the last artist is Bernardo Ballerino. And so it's kind of like a nice combination of Fort Worth artists and sort of Dallas artists. And that also was something that I was intentional about as well, that I wanted to have sort of an equal footing in, like, certainly our local artists in the city of Fort Worth, but then also artists that I felt speak to the conversation externally. And I just realized I forgot another name, Sierra L. Bryant as well. Sorry about that. I'm a visual person, so don't ever ask me something off the cuff because I will forget something.
That's okay. That's what the comments are for. We can always come back and pick up any piece that we left out. And that's the beauty of having eyes on the prize, is hopefully our moderators out there that do such a great job of taking care of me personally.
That's right. That's right.
Got your back as well. So Dr. Cross, now a lot of people may not know specifically what the Aurora Project is in Dallas. Now that is a video projection project. Now that same kind of format is coming to the Pioneer Tower. They have collected a ton, and I'm being very general in this, of imagery and pictures of Fort Worth history. That is to be projected onto the Pioneer Tower. Now these 10 artists that you've curated for New Stories, New Futures. That is an appendage of this Pioneer Tower. These
Yeah.
are live in-person presentations. And do you
Yeah.
mind just expanding a little bit about how these two events are going hand in hand and how they
Yeah.
support one another?
Yeah. So I think it's important to kind of make the distinction that, there are two specific artists that are the two artists that are going to be featured on the Pioneer Tower. So those artists are specific to that tower.
Yes.
The artists in this exhibition, and this is an outdoor exhibition, that's helpful to know for those who are like, I don't want people to like go to Will Rogers and expect to go inside. Everything is outside. So the exhibition was really designed to be, in celebration of the Pioneer Tower project. And so, you have this major public artwork that is going to be at the center of the town, and the exhibition is really expanding. It gives us the opportunity to expand on the conversation. So if you're imagining, like, you go to Will Rogers, and you see the Pioneer Tower, we have all of this exterior space around Will Rogers that will ultimately become the outdoor exhibition. You spoke about Aurora. One of the things in which they do is absolutely, they're champions of all forms of new media art, which includes video works, light, and performance, and a number of other experimental approaches. And so what you'll see is you'll certainly see video projections, but you'll also see artists that play with light in terms of their work. And they're experimenting. So even with video, like there's going to be so many different approaches to the videos or image projections. And so a lot of the artists that I've selected, some of them have a new media background. So they're like, when we think about artists and their crafts, their medium, they really have that kind of new media background. But I also thought it was important to include artists to give them the opportunity to explore and experiment on how they could extend their practice using this new approach. So like, you have new media art, and most of the times we may still see it indoors. So they're also like experimenting with, how does this look like outside, right? Projected against a building. So there are all these new elements, I think, for all of the artists that they had to experiment with and kind of think through as to how they would kind of expand their practice forward. So those were kind of fun. I mean, as an artist, like, everyone loves a good challenge, and I especially love artists that are willing to challenge themselves. So all of these artists are like, they're doing new works. They may be extension of existing projects that they've had before, but they're like really realizing them in new ways. And so I think that's really the beauty of this, is that it really is a new conversation, even for the artists themselves. And so I think, us as a community are allowed to kind of have a window into that world as well.
Now, I'm curious, Dr. Cross, a lot of people have an expectation in their mind of going to see art. They expect to walk in a gallery, a white wall with a picture on it. What is it that's so special about this particular group of people? Can you tell us something that the public may not be aware of, that they're going to get to experience when they come to this particular art exhibition?
Well, I think when you're looking at new media works and works that are outside, that is a whole new, we can kind of think about this, I guess, in terms of public art in general. Like, it's a whole new way of processing, interpreting, and experiencing art. These are spaces that may seem like really common to us. Like, we've all like walked around buildings, walked through parking lots, and so this is an exhibition where we're really taking these really accessible like entry points. Galleries and museums can be very inaccessible for some people, but this is actually kind of taking all of that out of the equation and saying, hey, like we're having an exhibition, that's in the exterior of a building that all of us, have the opportunity to enter into at one point or another. So in terms of what to expect, you can expect that you'll see a lot of works that are really large in scale, because we're using projection. And just like the Pioneer Tower, those are projections onto the tower. These are likewise projections and structures that are kind of building out on top of architecture, and kind of using the existing architecture of Will Rogers, like the exterior going around it. And I kind of, in an interesting way, this probably might sound like very abstract to anybody who's listening, but this is how my curator mind goes. It very much feels like a gallery to me, because if you think about it, if you walk into the gates in front of Will Rogers, it really kind of creates a corridor, right? It's just an outdoor corridor. And you turn to your right and turn to your left. It's I think about going to the Amon Carter, and it has that same kind of like experience of a guided kind of experience. So I think in that way, it actually might be more familiar to what people might be used to in terms of the structure. What Aurora has done in the past in Dallas is they have used the city of Dallas as their landscape, as their canvas. And, you may find artists in one building and, all across the city. We're really, kind of, I wouldn't say confined is the right word, but we're really situated within a particular place. And so that kind of gives us an opportunity to really use that situated location as a framework and as a backdrop for something. So there's some consistency there, So you'll see a lot of projections on the architecture. There is a parking garage, and that is, when a lot of people think of Aurora, they think about parking garages because they've utilized all kinds of different types of spaces like parking garages. So there's going to be a massive installation in the parking garage and also in the entry of the parking garage. So we're like using everything, using all of the structure of the buildings that maybe we might take for granted. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about you, but like when I'm walking in a parking garage, I'm not thinking about an art experience. But this is an opportunity to kind of reimagine where art can be, and how it can be perceived in different ways. So my hope is that when people, come to the exhibition, they'll start to look at all outdoor spaces like, oh my gosh, now I can't look at any building the same, because now I'm saying, ooh, can I project on this? So I think there's a lot of potential here. And, I don't like to say, that this has never been done before, but this is definitely new, sure. I think, for our city. And that's an exciting thing. So yeah, I hope that it kind of explains what you can expect.
You did a great job. And again, as I said, we don't even have to worry about that. The moderators got it taken care of. They'll do everything that we don't do. So we just get to chat. So now when you curate a piece, not just this particular one, do you have a general theme in mind, and then you try to seam the artists into that theme? Do you take the artists and create a general theme? What's your process when you go into curating a show?
So the fun thing about it is that it can be all of those things. And I would say that in this particular case, there was a little bit of both, a little both and. Sometimes you're going into a space as a curator and trying to imagine like who you could see here, you know, who do you feel like has that their work really would fit within the landscape in which you're working, you know, the space in which you're working. And so some of it was the feel of the space. So, you know, when I did the site visits and I walked around, there was like a sense of like, okay, you know, I get the feeling of this space. And then I start to think about what would I like to see, you know? And so it may all kind of start very abstractly from there in terms of like what I would like to see. But then from there, I kind of like just play. And I try not to like start with too many restrictions because I don't want to like cripple myself with, does that make sense? Like, or I don't like to use that word actually, but I don't like to restrict myself too early in the process. So I like to keep it really open. And so I kind of start out with like this massive list of potential artists. And it's just like anybody I can think of, you know, or, you know, asking other people or just doing the research and kind of trying to find people, things that I've seen out in the community. Like I just kind of write a list of like all of what I feel like could be really good possibilities. And then I start to like research each individual artist and kind of think about like what are the themes that each individual artist brings to the table. And then that kind of starts to kind of like crystallize some things like, okay, well, this person would really be good for this conversation. And this person would be really good for this conversation. And then like there's the artists themselves. Like you have to talk to them. It's
Right.
not, you know, sometimes there are exhibitions where I've had this is my theme. This is what I'm trying to do. And I'm just looking for work that speaks to that. With this, there was a lot of freedom that I had to kind of like really create a conversation. So I kind of went into it with the mindset of what the Pioneer Towers conversation was about, that their conversation with that bigger, you know, long-term project was about community. And so I kind of went in with like community, which that's a term that like speaks to my heart. Like I'm a person that's always concerned about community. And so I just started to think about like, you know, what are all of the possible ways that I could speak about community? And as you kind of start to, you know, think about that expanded view of community and you start to think about all the artists that could speak to that in different ways, you start to kind of like pinpoint, you know, the artists that you might be interested in. And then there were the conversations, you know, I invited artists to have a conversation about this project and to say, hey, this is what's going on. There's an exhibition tied to this wonderful project in our city. Would you be interested in talking about the project? And, you know, if you're even interested, because that's one thing that we can't assume that artists are just like tearing your door down, trying to be a part. You know, sometimes, you know, it isn't the case. So then there were like conversations that I had with artists to say, hey, so, you know, this is what it is. This is what I'm working with. Here's some images of the site. Because for some artists, this is a whole new thing, you know. I know me, I have never done an outdoor exhibition before. So I needed to really provide some context as to like what I was trying to accomplish here. And the wonderful thing about this exhibition is that Aurora is a major support for it. So it wasn't like artists didn't have any, you know, really like expertise at the helm, like that they could kind of go to for advice on certain things. So that's what's really been helpful in this. And so then once I talked to each artist that I was interested in, and they, you know, if they were interested, then it was kind of confirming for myself, like, okay, I really, really would love to include these particular artists. And, you know, sometimes the space itself like kind of spoke for certain artists, like, oh, this is what they do, like they're made for this. This whole space is speaking for them. And so yeah, I mean, it's kind of a combination of all of those different things, really kind of mapping out all of the possibilities, having conversations, and then kind of putting it all together and really confirming that we're all on the same page as to like what this is about. So
It just sounds absolutely incredible and a wonderful group of diverse artists. And I tell you, I can't wait. I believe August 20th and 21st at Pioneer
yes,
Tower, which of course is at the Cultural Arts District.
yes,
I think it's important to let everybody know admission is free. They
yes.
simply ask that you go to the website and sign up for a time to come and see. So you make a reservation and then you're able to come and check out all of these fantastic artists. I believe the website is fwpublicart.org. You can go there, find out more about it. Now, Dr. Cross, as you were reaching out to all of these fabulous artists, are you inspired? Do you see art hungry to return? Or do you still think there's a little hesitancy with what people are willing to share from their time? God, what, a year and a half now later?
I mean, there was a lot of excitement, every single artist that I approached about this, really came with a lot of excitement of like, oh, this sounds amazing. I'm excited to be considered for this. There was not one person that was like, yeah, I'm not really feeling like, I don't really want to do this, like no one did that. And I think that is a testament, I think, of the artists, number one, and that these are committed artists, like they're committed to the work, making the work. But I think also like the timing of it all, that we're at a point, where there is so much, which we've already talked about, that's kind of opening up. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, I wouldn't mind being kind of at the forefront of that, like movement to like, everybody's coming back out again and having a work that's a part of a project like this. So the energy was all positive, which I mean that obviously makes me inspired.
Right.
That that everyone was like, oh wow, this is great. I would love to do this. So I think I've said this in other talks about like just curating. I never assume that artists are just like, breaking your door down to try to do something. I respect, that this is also their time, that they could be doing anything else. They could be working on another project, and so the fact that each artist was like, I'm so excited about this, that spoke volumes to me.
Well, we are so lucky to not only have these incredible artists in our region, but also you to collect them and bring them to us. And we are just so very excited to see all they have to offer. I would be remiss, Juneteenth is coming up this weekend as well. Any thoughts, any hopes for that upcoming holiday?
Well, it's so cool that you mentioned that. I'm actually working on a collaboration or a project with the Nasher Public Program, and I'm working on installation at a organization in Oak Cliff called For Oak Cliff on a Juneteenth inspired conversation and art project. And it's based on some research that I've actually done over the past couple of years on Juneteenth. And so speaking of Juneteenth, I'm very excited about Juneteenth. I'm also a native Texan, so like, I'm not like, I mean, Juneteenth is becoming really important everywhere and is important everywhere. But I think as someone who is born and raised in Texas, and my ancestors like have, been in Texas for as long as I like know, Juneteenth is exceptionally important to me. It's something that I was really raised to celebrate and to honor, what my ancestors went through, and I'm fortunate enough to have done some family history and to know like the names of, some of my ancestors that were enslaved, so it takes on a new meaning for me now, because it's different when you're like, yeah, well, this is the day where, slaves in Texas were made free. Well, I can say, well, this is the day where, great 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 grandpa Skillern was made free. And there's just something that rings different with that for me. Because it's like that's where I came from. That's who made me. And so I honor that. I have no idea. And I'm learning more and more about my ancestors. My mother is from East Texas, so I've been doing a lot of research on East Texas history. So I'm learning every day more and more about who they were and what their experiences were. So for me, Juneteenth is just like honoring them, what they went through and that they survived, because guess what? I wouldn't be here if they didn't survive,
Yeah, absolutely. It's just such an important conversation to continue to have. And again, I just consider it an honor, Dr. Cross, to be able to visit with you, not once, but twice, and to get to continue to platform all of this incredible work that you were doing. So I think my lasagna's ready. I'm going to give you a little insight to what it finally turned out. I got the aluminum foil right there.
Ooh, I love it.
Cheese on there.
I'm gonna have to get an air fryer. It's everyone else is getting them.
Well, it has been a lifesaver, and I never thought I would veer away from my microwave as much. And I don't know if I would have without the air fryer. So try them out. They're certainly.
Might have to try that out.
That and the rice cookers. I think there's a big debate as to which one serves its public better. I don't know if I don't like cleaning the rice cookers. So I stick with the air fryer. And of course, the always great microwave. I don't think I'll ever let that one go.
Well, this wonderful taquito, if I can get
it over. There you go.
was microwave made. So thank you, microwave. Because some days it's just one of those days where you just need, thank God for the microwave, right?
I could not agree more.
You'd be going all day.
Dr. Cross, it has been a pleasure. Any final thoughts or words of wisdom for our colleagues and viewers out there?
Well, Glass Tire always talks about go see some art. And so I'm excited that we're in a place where we can begin to like even talk about these kinds of projects that we talked about today, and just be a part of that, so where you can and where you feel that you safely can go see some art, go see some art. It's a good time, I think, to do that.
Absolutely. Very blessed to still be here. Very blessed to visit with you. Again, folks, new stories, new futures at Pioneer Tower, August 20th and 21st, 2021, just a few short weeks away. It'll take place from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. So you have plenty of time to go to the Fort Worth Public Art, make a reservation, absolutely free. Come and see us. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we've got all of these fabulous artists coming up in the next few weeks right here on Box Lunch. Dr. Cross, thank you so much. Bon appetit, my friends. That does it for another edition of our Box Lunch program.
Bon appetit.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you again real soon.
Thank you so much. Thank y'all.